Oh, Donald Trump is going to gut Social Security. Nobody believes that. We know what Trump campaigned on. Oh, Trump is a monster who's a rapist, murderer, serial killer. Nobody believes that. So the political question, if we're in this tribal moment,
or maybe they believe it and they don't
excuse
care.
Me 1 second, the two of you. You have a very difficult time listening to a reasonable argument. If we are in this moment,
I'm listening to you.
What argument are the Democrats going to make to convince voters, most of whom voted against them in November?
Michael Knowles went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and absolutely annihilated a couple of leftists, leaving everybody else on the panel absolutely stunned. I mean, the guy is just an expert, man. He just expertly dismantles all of these leftist arguments, and it's absolutely glorious to watch. Let's get into this clip here where Michael Knowles goes on Piers Morgan Uncensored and even shocks Piers Morgan himself, but also stuns the woke idiots here on this panel on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Let's get into this clip here.
We have got to the stage now, more than I think ever before, and it's fueled by social media being so tribal. We have got to a stage where people basically react to news stories about their people depending on their political colors. Right? If you're a Republican, you know, if you're a MAGA Republican, you are never going to accept that any of the women-related charges against Trump have any merit whatsoever, but you're going to revel in the stuff involving Clinton. And conversely, if you're on the left, you're never going to accept anything's wrong with St. Bill, but it's all going to pour all over Trump, who's the most perverted president in history. That's where we've got to. And actually to the detriment, I think, of American political discourse. I mean, I call out everybody. I'm quite happy to say I think it was all wrong. Okay? So, you know, I just don't think it shouldn't be that
Piers,
hard.
But Piers, if there's proof,
I mean, Democrats have their fair line of creeps.
Yeah.
Of course, I agree. But
and so does the media, by the way.
Anthony Weiner, Bill Clinton, Al Franken. Actually, that was a time when the Democrats took out their own.
But here's the difference.
That was one where the Democrats did.
Because it was convenient.
Al Franken.
But here's the difference. I agree with you. I agree with you guys. What some of the behavior of Bill Clinton, what he did was awful. But you see, Bill Clinton's not in office right now. Donald Trump is in office, and if you bring up his sexcapades and the horrible behavior and the things he's done in his life, all I hear is whataboutism. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He is a liable sexual abuser. He's had 25 women coming forward. So, you know, we can keep talking about Bill Clinton and what happened 30, 40 years ago.
All right, Michael.
This is also beside
Paul, real quick, before he even absolutely destroys his argument himself, any single time, and it sucks that this is the case because I know, I mean, obviously, right, sexual abuse is a thing, you know, SA is a real thing, but any time now, because of the Me Too movement and all the other nonsense that surrounds it, anytime somebody says, oh, there's 25 women that came out and spoke out against this person, I immediately don't believe it. If there's 10 people, if there's a group of women that come out at the same time and accuse someone of doing something along those lines, I immediately default to, I don't believe it. And it's such that that's the case because I'm sure that there's something that I don't believe that are true. And I think the masses are starting to feel the same way, just subconsciously, because of all of the cases of there being just blatant lies trying to take people down. Donald Trump being one of those cases, as I'm sure Michael Knowles is about to explain. Johnny Depp's another one where, you know, it's just like another Me Too fail. And there's so many like YouTubers out there that I've gotten accused of stuff, that's serious stuff, that come out and it's completely just not true. And it's like, okay, it's happened enough times where I don't believe it. For a second, I don't believe it.
Point, because I think most of us don't really believe that President Trump is a rapist or anything, to the point that Vinny was just making. E. Jean Carroll went on TV and said that rape is sexy. So she seems a little bit odd. I'm skeptical of her claims. And regardless, though, all of this was known to voters.
But that's not the
all of
only
these allegations,
person who's
all the smears. Excuse me one second. All of the smears.
25 women.
All of this was known to. Excuse me one second. I'll just try to finish my point like a civilized human being. All of this was known to voters, and most voters voted for Trump in November.
Yeah.
So the Democrats can keep trying to throw this stuff out there. Oh, the election was rigged. Nobody, not one person, seriously believes that. Oh, Donald Trump is going to gut Social Security. Nobody believes that. We know what Trump campaigned on. Oh, Trump is a monster who's a rapist, murderer, serial killer. Nobody believes that. So the political question, if we're in this tribal moment,
or maybe they believe it and they don't care.
Excuse me one second, the two of you. You have a very difficult time listening to a reasonable argument. If we are in this moment,
I'm listening to you.
What argument are the Democrats going to make to convince voters, most of whom voted against them in November?
Well, the interesting argument. Okay, so let me throw an example of an interesting argument they could make, and it involves this whole issue of the Venezuelan criminal migrants that Trump has been throwing out of America. Now, you've got a judge there who Trump calls radical left, but, Tara, this judge has come out and tried to thwart this happening. Too late for quite a few of them to be deported, some back to Venezuela, some to those notorious El Salvador prisons. But it does seem to be pushing the very boundaries here of where, the pillars of American democracy collide and who has the ultimate say. What do you make of this particular story?
I think it's a great story not great story, but it is an example. It's probably the most extreme example so far of the president truly getting into a war with the judiciary and pushing the bounds of a constitutional crisis. But I have to say the Republicans chose the right the right legal battle, because this is so unpopular in the U.S., migration, and there are not a lot of people who want, Venezuelan gang members to stay in the country. So if you were going to get in a war with the courts, this is the case to go for. And truly, the thing is, the president has a military. He has actual ability to command forces. Courts don't. They have really very little power to enforce their rulings, right? And so the power of the courts is really held up by political opinion. So as long as the public is with the courts, they have the power. But in this case, I'm not sure that the public is necessarily with the courts. There are a lot of people obviously concerned about this constitutional clash, right? And the idea that the president thinks that he can overrule the courts. But they also probably side with him on the actual crux of the issue, which is removing gang members from the United States.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Brian, because I think it is the fact that most Americans, when they're told, look, these are pretty bad criminal people, and we're chucking them back either to their country or El Salvador, they're probably not going to be too bothered about whether some judge has decided he doesn't think this is particularly due process.
Well, a couple things here, Piers. First of all, they haven't shown direct evidence that these are all gang members. We've heard about tattoos, and we've also heard stories from family members that some of these people have no criminal records, and that one tattoo was a soccer ball, or he was a fan of a soccer team. Everyone is entitled to due process. I want bad people out of this country if they are gang members, just as much as anybody else on this panel. But the fact of the matter is that everybody deserves due process.
No, not everybody does, man. If you're here illegally, you don't deserve due process. I don't care if you're a gang member or not. All the gang member thing does is it helps people feel better that are like these two people in the middle right here that are like, oh, these poor babies, these poor illegals, they should, they should be able to have a home here too. Nah, I just don't care, man. If you're here illegally, you should be deported. I don't care if you're a gang member. I don't care if you're a model citizen while you're here. You should be deported. Because on average, we're going to save more lives, and we're going to stop future crimes from happening than if we didn't do these things. It's so simple. If somebody is willing to break the law to enter the country, they are probably much more likely to break the law once they get inside, especially if they break the law to enter the country and then there's no repercussions and everybody's just defending them. And in fact, they get, government assistance and things like this. It's like, oh, hell yeah. If I break the law, I get rewarded for it with government assistance. That's amazing. I get treated better than veterans of the United States military. Awesome. I love this place. I'm going to go break some more laws. It's basically human psychology. If you know anything about business, you've ever run a business before, or if you're just an observant person, you'll be able to tell, once people buy from something or someone or a company one time, they're a whole lot more likely to buy from them in the future. So that's why a lot of these companies will sell something very low ticket up front, right? They'll sell something that's like $5 a month or 99 cents a month or something like that, because they know that if they're not gonna make a profit on that, right? The best case scenario is they break even on the front end, but they know that all these people who are buying 99-cent thing or the $15 a month thing, whatever, they're infinitely more likely to buy from them in the future. The same thing applies, is basically human psychology. The same thing applies for people who are entering the country illegally. If they enter the country and they break one law on their way in, they're infinitely more likely to break more laws once they are inside. And even if they weren't, they're still taking resources away from American taxpayers and American veterans that are being absolutely just discarded. So they should be gone no matter what. And I would think that you agree with me in the comments, but I'm curious to see. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Process. And every single time a judge rules against Donald Trump, Donald Trump is always the guy that attacks the judge personally, attacks the judge's family, for example. And I don't care how much money this judge's wife has donated to a particular party. That is academic to what we are talking about here. Donald Trump does not respect the rule of law. And this judge ruled on this and made an order on this when one of those planes was still grounded. They attack every judge they disagree with personally. And then when a judge rules in their favor, they're brilliant. They're great. He says the same thing about a judge that rules in his favor as he says about Vladimir Putin. Brilliant, smart guy. I mean, I'm just getting sick and tired of this.
Brian, do you remember when the Dobbs decision was leaked, quite contrary to court tradition, and Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader in the Senate, walked up to the Supreme Court and said, watch out, Justice Kavanaugh, watch out, Justice Gorsuch, you have unleashed the whirlwind. And then a leftist came from California to Washington, D.C. to try to murder Justice Kavanaugh. Could you please spare me the crocodile tears over attacks on judges?
I'll respond to that. Unlike you, Michael, I don't use whataboutism, and I'm willing to go after both sides. I didn't agree with that then.
Sounds like you're going
I don't agree with that now. But you notice what Michael, hold on a second, I'm answering your question. You notice what Michael does? I bring up points of Donald Trump attacking a judge, attacking a judge's character, attacking the judge's wife, and Michael starts talking about Chuck Schumer. You see, because Michael is in his right-wing echo chamber bubble, and he can't. Well, why don't you criticize Trump for going after a judge's family then? Why do you have to bring up a Democrat and Chuck Schumer? I agree with you.
Oh, I'm happy to answer
that. Was wrong
I'm happy
also.
to answer that. I'm happy to answer that.
You know, you can just tell when somebody's like wife runs the household. Like, I can just tell that this guy, he's such a soy boy. Like, he's such a loser. And you can just tell that his wife just runs like, she's probably the breadwinner, you know, if he might be gay, I don't know. But if he has a wife, she's definitely the breadwinner. She makes more money than him. She tells him what to do. She bosses. He definitely refers to his wife as the boss, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could just tell the type of person he is just by listening to him speak for one sentence. You can tell this man's whole world, you know, she gave him permission to go on this show, 100%.
President Trump never said you've unleashed the whirlwind right before a left-wing assassin tried to murder Kavanaugh and potentially his whole family. President Trump pointed out that the judge's order was wrong, was ridiculous. We live in a country with a separation of powers and a balance between the various branches of government. We don't live in a country with judicial supremacy. President Trump was carrying out his rightful duties as president of the United States. To the point raised earlier, most people are on the side of President Trump here. We want to get the face-tattooed Satan worship gangsters out of our country. There's nothing wrong or illegal about that. And if the Democrats are going to fall in for Trump's traps like this, he's picking not 80-20 issues, but 95-5 issues here. For goodness sakes, he trolled Democrats into defending paper straws a couple of weeks ago. So if Democrats want to go all in on defending Venezuelan gangsters,
but let me ask you, Michael.
My guest, I can't wait for the.
But Michael, let me ask you a question. I want to play you a clip from Tim Miller, because one of the people that's been rounded up here is apparently a gay Venezuelan man who may not be a member of the gang at all. Tim Miller said this.
Hey guys, it's Tim. I'm in a hotel, but I couldn't sleep last night after seeing the photos of Andre, the gay Venezuelan that we have been reporting on, who was sent to the El Salvador prison camp to be beaten with no due process. We finally get to see what he looks like. And let me ask you, does this man look like a member of Tren de Aragua? Does he look like a gang member? Look at this person. Is this fucking West Side Story? What do you mean?
I don't know why it matters, man. Like, I get it. They would rather deport gang members or whatever. I just think go after the people who are here illegally. And I don't care if they're a gang member or not. Yeah, I know that sounds super harsh, but like, if they're here illegally, or if they're not here illegally and you can prove that they're a gang member, also get them out. But yeah, I just think that the main goal should be going after illegals, not just specifically gang members who are here illegally, but people who are here illegally who are gang members, get them out. People who are here illegally, get them out. I don't care if they're a gang member. I don't care if they're a criminal. I don't care. Just get them out. It's as simple as that. And I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments still. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about Michael Knowles absolutely cooking these woke idiots here on this live Piers Morgan Uncensored panel.